Yo, what is going on, guys? Episode 93 of many. I told you, or maybe I didn't tell you guys, but I'm working on doing a better job of scheduling guests to come on to the podcast to tell us what they know, to educate us more on the fitness field, maybe to talk general business, right? Just kind of any kind of conversation to see what we get out of it. So I have an awesome episode for you today. We recorded it yesterday, so if you're watching the video, I am wearing something a little bit different. But I'm very excited for today's guest, Miss Kaylie Wilcox. I grew up with her here in Watoma High. We both graduated in 2016. We actually had this really funny story. I mentioned it very briefly. We had this very funny thing in high school, like kind of our goals down the road. And so it was really awesome getting to connect with her and bring this episode to life. Tune into the episode. She is now doing chiropractic out in New Jersey. It's not just standard chiropractic stuff. If you think of chiropractic and physical therapy and putting those two things together, you need to listen to the episode to kind of understand what her chiropractic is all about. The biggest takeaway for me, I've got lower back problems, and after talking to her on this episode, I just learned that I might not have to go to the chiropractor as much if I do the necessary steps, and that's what she really works on with clients. So anyways, I'm very excited. She works with a company called Strive to Move. She is a chiropractor there and also the managing partner. She also does a lot of other side things business-wise. So I'm actually going to be having her on a couple more times. After you guys listen to today's episode, if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts, if you want to know a little bit more from a chiropractor directly, let me know the questions so we can work with her and get some awesome episodes for you. It's really like her field is really fitness and chiropractic coming together. She wants you to move better, again, live longer, feel better. So it was actually very awesome getting to talk to her because it's similar to what we believe here at Grizzlies. Without further ado, enjoy today's episode and we will see you guys soon. All right, Kaylie, thank you for hopping on today's pod. It's been a very, very long time since I have talked to you, seen you. It's been a minute. How you doing?
I know it has been a long time. I was just thinking about the fact that we're going to be graduating from like high school in 10 years. Good. I'm good. I was also reflecting with Dakota because we'll listen to the podcast and it like reminds us of home so much, which obviously we get a little homesick being in New Jersey. And I was like laughing in the car with them the other day because I'm like, I feel like Colton sounds like even more Wisconsin than I remember, in the best way.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Funny. No, it's I was thinking about it too. I mean, I've got Nolan and Kyle obviously, right? But I don't have a whole lot of, we all go our own ways. We've all got our own direction. And I was thinking about this last night. So for those of you listening, Kaylie and I, like back in high school, we both graduated in 2016. And she was like set on being a chiropractor and knew that's kind of what she wanted to do in high school. And I would always talk about like fitness in general. And I remember we were like, dude, we're going to have a gym someday. You're going to be the chiropractor in the gym. It's going to be this awesome thing. And it, like, we didn't really know what we were talking about, but I was thinking about it last night. I was like, well, me and Kaylie, what do we, and that's literally the conversation we used to have. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. We're going to have a super gym. We're going to have all this stuff. Kaylee's going to be the chiropractor. It's going to be this thing. So, in its own weird way, we're doing what we said, just, yeah. So today we'll get to it. So for the listeners, I go to the chiropractor for my lower back issues, but I don't really know a whole lot. And I know you're doing kind of like next level stuff compared to like what we would see in these small towns here. So the first question I have for you is like, I want to understand what you do like in a nutshell. I'm sure you could probably tell me for like an hour of like all the amazing things, but in a nutshell, I want to understand your chiropractic kind of compared to a standard chiropractic that we would see like in a smaller town, and just kind of walk me through some of that stuff.
Yeah, well, first, I love this question. I get it every single day from my patients as well. Like, how are you different from the traditional chiropractor? And the first thing that I can tell you is more so who we help. So we help people who've already tried the traditional chiropractor. They've already tried doing things on their own. They've been to the physical therapist and they still have this chronic back pain that they can't shake. And what we find is the thing that people missed is the deeper root cause mechanically as to why this back pain is even happening. So instead of throwing an adjustment into your back or just rubbing it, like actually assessing your movement patterns and figuring out where is the actual problem that needs to be corrected and correcting those compensation patterns.
Fair enough. Do you guys, I'm just curious, do you do like a lot of x-ray stuff or anything like that at your chiropractic or?
We don't. It's a good question. But we do not. Do you have a reason why you asked that?
I was when I was out in Colorado for my first semester of school. Not that I went to many semesters of school. I like my lower back pain is like, we're going to put you on this x-ray right away. And I don't know if it was necessary, but I forget what it's called. I have like spondo something. My L5 and S1 were born that way. And then it's all screwed up basically.
Got it. Yeah, so it's standard for a lot of the like traditional chiropractors to take an x-ray of your back right away. And it's like the old school way of doing it is like, oh, we gotta take an x-ray to make sure you're safe to be adjusted. And they'll actually use it and look at the x-ray and say, like, oh, you need to be adjusted here. Personally, if you're asking me, I actually reject that because that's like a two-dimensional picture and you're a 3D person. And so I'd rather look at the way that you move than assessing structurally your skeleton, because most of the time, like if you have a movement problem, it's going to require some type of movement solution. Do you notice the back pain popping up in the gym at all for you?
Um, I, I mean, I've basically come to the point where like, and this is actually one of the questions I want to talk to you about so I could get your input, but um, my lower back pain since like in high school, I didn't really have any problems. And then college came and I was doing college baseball. I was doing my sprints and my lower back would just like kind of get, out of whack, right? I'd have to go get an alignment and because basically I'd start impinging a little bit or my hips would be out of line. And that's all I knew when I was in high school. And then I went and got the x-ray and then I found out there was more to it. And I needed more like decompression therapy they wanted me doing to take more pressure off that low back. So I don't do loads anymore. I don't really do like heavy squats or deadlifts. So I know enough now where I keep a lot of that pain away, but like I'm like every other week I have to get like an adjustment just to kind of keep it going. So I don't know if you were going to give me some tricks that I could
Uh-huh.
not go to the chiropractor so much.
Oh, okay. Good question. I mean, I hate to give this answer because it's never satisfying, but it depends. And I would absolutely like love to do an assessment to first understand like how are your hips moving relative to your back? And
Sure.
like, has anyone ever like actually looked at the rotational movement of your hips? Are you strong throughout that entire range of motion in your hips? And from what I remember in high school, I mean, you had great depth with squatting, so you
Yeah.
have to have some type of good range of motion in your hips, but another common root cause that I'll find of people who are in a similar situation of you, where you're just in this like cycle of appointments, is the pressure management in your core. And so, how are you stabilizing your core throughout day to day life in those movements in the gym? All those things I would want to take a look at for sure. But
Sure.
it definitely sounds like there's more yet that could be discovered for sure.
Fair enough. So why does chiropractic get like a bad rap? Like why? From what I heard, like chiropractic way long ago, when it first started was more of like I don't know, like a gimmick or like I forget the word I'm trying to think, but like, do you know like how chiropractic came to be like way back when?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh man. Where do I start? um yeah, so first just need to tell you that I everything that I stand for is completely against what the old way is. And um chiropractors are a dime a dozen. You probably won't meet one that's exactly the same as the other. There's so much that you can do with it, but the bad rap, where it comes from, really in the more modern day, in the last like 10 to 20 years, is similar experience to what you've had going on, where it's like, hey, I constantly need to go to feel okay, instead of having the tools to fix it yourself and actually gaining confidence that you can do these loaded movements in the gym. And another problem is that a lot of chiropractors will sell people on the idea that they need to get adjusted every single week for the rest of their life. Selling really big treatment plans like come 2 times a week for an entire year, just to keep your nervous system okay, to help cure cancer, making really outlandish
Yeah.
claims of what it can do. And the history of chiropractic is actually pretty wild if you'd like to get into that. Essentially, it all started with some crazy dude that was like, "Oh, you can't hear, patient. Let me try to adjust you and see if I can bring back your hearing." And apparently, he cured a deaf person. Um, and it was this whole thing. The medical community was out for him. So then he made chiropractic a religion to avoid getting shut down by the medical board. So there's a lot of hate towards that because people are like, oh, it was a religion at one point. And without understanding the context, the history of why he did it, you'd be like, this is crazy.
Yeah, I remember hearing just like, I don't know, the early on and how it was like it wasn't yeah. I mean, there's a start of everything, right? So, um, my question to you, going back to like when a client comes to you, and this is just intriguing to me. So, like your assessment, right? So I come to you the first time. What do you like take me through at your again? Because I'm thinking a lot of people, and I'm not trying to sell people on chiropractic here, but um, a lot of people that I know that like maybe have an injury or my back hurts or my this or that, they're like, I don't want to go to the chiropractic because then I feel like I have to continue going to the chiropractor, right? Like it's like if I go once, I have to keep going, because the general like if you're not, I think in these small towns, it's important that we do our own research essentially on the problem we're having because 100% I go, I get adjusted, and I leave, and I'll say, see you next time, right? Like, and it's just a repetitive thing. Um, but we're not doing anything outside of that to get better permanently. So what are your, I'm curious, your assessments? Like I come to you my first time, I say my lower back hurts. What does that first session look like by you guys?
Yeah,
Yeah.
great question. So first, I actually get super clear on the goal first, which I think is typically not the normal experience. I think most people, when they go to the chiropractor, their experience from what they told me is that it's just asking about pain. And the entire conversation is just how we're going to make the pain go away. And for me, that's where I'm just getting started. And so if you have back pain, most likely there's something underlying that was brewing for years, dysfunctional movement that was happening for years. And so if you come to me for 6 weeks, we're gonna get you out of pain pretty quick. But I want to make sure that that pain actually stays away and you have the tools to recover from it long term. So a common thing that I'll get in the office is like, I have back pain with either squatting or I have back pain with picking my kids up off the ground. And I'm really afraid of what this is going to look like if this continues to progress over the next 20 to 30 years. And so the outcome that we agree on before I even assess you is, all right, you want to get up and off the floor with your kids without back pain? We're going to make that happen. Not just let's get out of back pain. So that's step one. Step two is also making sure that I'm comfortable agreeing to the goal. And I don't like to make empty promises for people. I like to agree that I can help them hit that goal. And for people who've been in chronic pain, it's not so simple to get out of pain. We've had treatments that don't work. It's not that simple. So then the third step, once I agree I can help you with that, is actually assessing, similar to like if you've ever had like an FMS screen in baseball, it's similar to that. It's not quite like athletic testing like we did in weightlifting in school, but it's a head to toe movement assessment, and looking at standards of the range of motion and saying, hey, like, is this within normal limits or is this dysfunctional? And actually what I do, I don't tell patients this up front, but like I'm actually ignoring where the pain is and I'm looking at just where the dysfunctional movement is happening. And based on those patterns, I follow what's called SFMA, selective functional movement assessment. And I follow that and I just focus on the dysfunctional patterns and correcting those. And the pain typically goes away with it. So the very first assessment is actually just getting super clear on the root of where this is coming from and making sure that you're aware of that first before we even talk about the treatment plan.
Love it. So, I mean, really, it's like, I mean, what you're doing is like chiropractic physical therapy kind of almost in one, right? Like you're not the physical therapist, but you're So how long do, I'm just curious, how long do these sessions last by you? Like if I was coming to you, what does that look like?
Yeah, great question. So, every session is a full hour long with me the entire time. So we don't use aides. There's no one who doesn't have as much experience as me who's working with you. You're with me the entire time.
Cool. And you, I assume, I mean, really you're getting people in and again, your goal is to cure long term. And I mean, I'm just like thinking, I've got these ideas, right? But I'm thinking of fitness and I'm thinking about like what you do and how we are doing like our personal training stuff. And like our goal is again to help people move better, live longer, healthier, happier lives. One of the sayings we have is like 10 years longer, 10 years stronger. Like, really you have to be such forward thinking. And a lot of people, especially our age, aren't. We're just going out to the bars or we're like not, a lot of people our age aren't really in the gym yet. And then again, you get to an age where now you're dysfunctional and things don't work the way you wish they did. And I kind of believe in like not being immortal, but I really think you can push off like the decay. Like everybody thinks when you're 26, 27, that's your peak, right? Like male testosterone, it's like you're 25, 26, 27, and then it's all going downhill. I really believe with like your diet and your routines and the things you do, even if it is we're here at the peak, I still think there's room to grow. I mean, like, anyways, so I just got all these ideas. So when do you have to be in person? My question is, how good are you at what you do that like if you just had a conversation with me that you could do like our first assessment right now, hypothetically speaking? Like do you have to do a lot of like touchy feely and you probably have to see me move, but tell me what you think.
I love that question. I do have virtual clients, so I don't need to touch at all to be able to fix a problem for you. No.
Interesting. So how often are you really doing adjustments? Like are you doing adjustments most of the time or is it a lot of like again the physical therapy route where we're just fixing stuff that you didn't realize was there?
I love that you asked that. So when I got into school, I got honestly like hit a wall where I'm like, what am I doing? You go six figures into student loan debt, and then you're like, these adjustments for some people actually make it worse. For some people, they can be really helpful. And I realized I didn't want that to be the only tool in my tool belt. And so on an actual day to day in my practice, yesterday I didn't adjust a single person in my practice. And honestly, on my schedule, I'd say only 40% of my patients actually clinically need it. And some people are afraid of it. And I love that I can get the exact same outcomes and actually better without adjusting them. And I can tell you the two types of body types who should get it and would benefit from it, and a body type that actually be making the adjustment worse. I think that'd be helpful for the audience to hear. So, first, like the kind of like stiff old guy does great with adjustments. Like it's for him. The young female who's in her 30s, who is a little bit more flexible than normal, this is going to make her hurt worse because she already has so much motion in her joints that she doesn't need more motion. She actually needs less and she needs more control and more strengthening of the end range of the joints. And it actually can be quite dangerous to adjust a female who has been smoking while she's on birth control and who is super flexible. So those women in their 30s are actually who I am very, very, very cautious to adjust.
Interesting. I again, me listening and me having back pain, I'm like, well, I think I'm gonna have to become a virtual client. I need to like figure out how I can. I've been thinking about it more and more. Is like, how can I strengthen what I need to strengthen? And that's kind of where we're going to be going here too. Is some of the questions.
Yeah.
So I won't jump the gun. So we've talked about why chiropractic kind of gets a bad rap. We kind of understand what you do and how you look at it. Let's talk about some of the things you're mentioning, like tendons need load. And I think this is an interesting thing because do you follow or have you seen like the knees over toes guy at all?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So I've recently been seeing his stuff and it makes so much more sense, right? Like when you're in high school, we're trying to like protect the knees. So we're not actually trying to like even really work the knees. We're trying to protect them. And by us protecting them or not going knees over toes, we're not actually putting any load on that tendon, right? And then we're actually causing more likely to have failure in there. So I haven't researched this a whole lot. I've been seeing the knees over toes guy. When I've been doing my lunges lately, I've been trying to go knees way over my toes and like putting a little bit of extra load there. But talk to me about like tendons and give me some, make me smarter today.
Well, I love tendons. It's a topic of conversation every single day in the office. I think that's probably the one thing I educate on the most. So, yes, tendons need load. This is probably one of the most old school thoughts that we need to rest tendonitis. And hate to say it, but if you were to go to anyone, I'm assuming in the rural area, and ask what to do for this pain, most likely the prescription that you're going to get is rest for 6 weeks, take some anti-inflammatories, put some ice and heat on it, and then return back to activity. And we just, from what we know now, that is outdated advice and that doesn't work. So people end up in my office after that anyways, because they go back to doing the things that they want to do, like squatting under a barbell, and the pain comes back with vengeance because what happened along the way was they actually got more deconditioned in that tendon and it got weaker. And so tendons, it's like a spectrum, where you can really hurt the tendon by doing too much load, and you also can really hurt the tendon by not doing enough load. And honestly, I think so many people are in pain right now because they're just not strong and they're not loading their tendons. Your body is designed to move. Your joints get cranky when you don't move. Your tendons get cranky when you don't move. And so if something's screaming at you, most likely it's because you don't have the right dosage of movement. And load is kind of this ambiguous word. And what I mean by load is, like, if you take a snapshot of the last 6 weeks of your loading, if you think about, okay, like what's been like my rep scheme? How much weight have I done? How much depth have I done? What's the tempo of the things that I've done? And if you can just stay like within 10% or so of that, that's safe for your tendons. Where most people get it wrong is they haven't been to the gym in like 3 months. It's January. This is exactly when this shit happens. And they're like, I'm going to get back into the gym. And they think, at one point in my life, I did 135 for bench and I'm really motivated right now and I'm going to go try it. And so they load up the bar, they go and try it, and maybe they feel good while they're doing it, but then they get home, they're like, damn, I like can't lift my arm. Like, I like just hurts my shoulder. And then they get in a cycle where they go to the doctor and they're like, rest, don't go to the gym. They're canceling their gym membership. They're going and getting cortisone injections. They're going to the ortho and getting consults for surgery, when all they needed to do was just ease back into that lifting, and go back to the picture of what have I done in the last 6 weeks.
Interesting. That was my other note that I wanted to talk to you about. I wanted to elaborate more on the rest and the doctor's note because I mean, I see it all the time. I don't want to say all the time. It's not like we have 500 clients coming to us, but I mean, I do see it and I've heard of it several, I've been a person like that where it's like, I go to the chiro and chiro specifically in my world, but they, hey, unfortunately with your lower back, you really probably shouldn't squat anymore. You probably shouldn't, do leg press, or I'm like, well, that's not really realistic for me. Like I love working out, and so, and then you get set back 3-4 months, or you have the excuse. You now have somebody with authority that says, hey man, it's best for you just to relax, right? It's just best for you to ice it and take ibuprofen. And I'm anti ibuprofen and any man, like I don't do any of that stuff. So it really irritates me when that's like the protocol. Take some blood thinners and you'll be fine. So let's just talk about rest and like the doctor's note and help my people listening, and hopefully the people that will soon be listening. That's not always the answer.
Yeah. So, first, I'm sorry that you were told to avoid something that you like to do, because I simply reject that in my office. I think that there's always a way to do it. There might need to be workarounds in the beginning, but I think if there's anything that you leave from this conversation, it's that there can be some hope that you can get back to do that and you can do it safely. Most likely, we're just missing something. But you're right. That is the standard of care is to just rest and avoid the activity. And you're absolutely right. When a person of authority tells you that this is damaging to you, you actually start to perceive that movement as dangerous and not as safe. And when that happens, your body will put up an alarm. And essentially, what it will do, it will send pain signals to you, even if there's no tissue damage, because it's just trying to keep you safe. It'll be like, whoa, 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 that's not a safe movement for us. And essentially, what you actually need is you need a provider to reassure you, another position of authority to say, hey, no, that is okay. Here's how we can do it safely. And you need to create an environment of safety to be able to pull yourself out of that cycle. Because what can happen if you do rest is it's literally like you rest. And so typically when people think rest, they go cold turkey and they stop going to the gym altogether. They get deconditioned, or another word, weak. Then they get motivated again to go and try because they're starting to feel good. But they forget that they just got deconditioned and more weak. So then the cycle starts all over again because they just hurt themselves the next time they tried that movement. And with rest, the thing that I wish I could tell everyone is that rest is so relative and so person dependent. And what I mean by that is rest to me might mean that I'm going to do 55s in each hand for my RDL versus 85s in each hand. But rest to someone like my mom might mean that she stops that movement for this week. And then she tries it again next week at a lighter weight. The problem is that most people just stop the movement altogether, or they stop going to the gym altogether, and they stop all activity. Like, it's this like all or nothing approach with the rest that is really damaging to people and their health.
Been learning a lot too about like I'm reading this book from like the 50s right now, and it's called How to Live 365 Days a Year. And the first 9 chapters that I've read, it's talking about like 1 and 2 illnesses are mentally driven, right? Like our mental side is so strong that if you just lay in bed and you're like, what hurts today? If you phrase it, what hurts today? Your body can send a signal somewhere and be like, my knee actually isn't feeling that great, even though it was a fine day or whatever, right? So it was like, and then maybe the numbers have changed, but it was like 75% of all headaches or 85% of all headaches are usually an emotionally driven response, not actually that there's something wrong. And so I just think it's interesting. Like, we're talking somebody of authority, at least a perceived authority, says, hey man, it's not the best for you to do this. Like you said, then the brain automatically makes a connection with that movement in the future. I don't want to say I'm sure we've all, but we've all probably maybe had 1 too many drinks of something before, and our brain definitely remembers, don't drink that again because I did not feel good the next day, right? Like, if you were young and drinking some cherry McGillicuddy's or something, there's probably something, and there could be food poisoning too, right? Like, there's these things that your brain will remember. So now you've got somebody of authority saying, hey, squatting's not good for you. And until I really do my own research or get out of my own way, I'm just going to always think I should not squat because, there's like this barrier now. So I just think it's interesting that you bring that up because a lot of it is a mental game too, when it comes to this. And so my question for you off of what you just said, for my own business's benefit, but like, if you're a doctor, you've gone to school, you've done the things, and now I have clients who go to a doctor and they say, I don't want you doing this. My question for you, and this is, I guess, just between you and I really, but is like, if I needed somebody to get a second opinion and I wanted to send them to Dr. Kaylie, hey, Dr. Marks is going to be your girl, like, talk to her about what's going on. I'm sure there's some things you can't give input on, right? Like a heart surgery is not your game. But if it's like, I injured my shoulder, I injured like a physical, like, I assume you would just have to injure something like a muscle or what I'm trying to ask? Like, what could you give a second opinion on versus what can't you give a second opinion on? You know what I mean?
It's a great question. So any type of pain, anything that's muscle or neuro related is really what I'm a specialist in. but I'll tell you all the things that I can't do. And actually, just had the most recent example. We had someone call into the office yesterday who was like, I have like back pain, but like I have blood in my urine, it's cloudy, and like I'm puking. And I'm like, stay away. Like, that is not what we do. I'm not fixing the blood in your urine. And your back pain is definitely associated with that. So like, please go get some help and we'll be right here when you need us. But yeah, if someone's having like chest pain, that's a referral out. In That's really outside my scope, but anything head to toe that is causing a muscle or a nerve problem is absolutely within my scope.
I feel like most of the doctor's notes or the injuries are right. Like I fell and I hurt something. I think I think we had like a rib injury recently, right? Somebody had broken two ribs. Again, I don't know what your caveat is to that. It's like, well, in my opinion, you do what you can and you don't what you can't, right? I mean, like I've broken a rib too. It's harder to breathe or maybe do like pushing or pulling movements, but I still think you can maybe do some stuff in the gym 1 or 2 days a week, but that might be a biased opinion.
No, I mean ribs are really hard. That's a really tough scenario. 'Cause it depends on where it is, how can they breathe, can they move, depending on how old the client is and their activity ahead of time. And actually, what's crazy is all that is dependent on how active you were before the incident. Traumatic falls are something that are not within our scope because most of the time those are pretty traumatic. We're talking about like a fracture. A fracture is like, I can't do anything about that. I can't treat it. What I can do is I can treat the muscles around it. And yeah, if you're still mobile and you can still do stuff in the gym, it's better than not doing anything for so many reasons outside of your physical health, like mental health too. You still want to make sure you stay in that routine. Um, this is a tangent here, but I'm sure you've heard of like after women when they give birth, like the couple of months after that are just really hard, and the whole year after that is hard, and postpartum is forever. So like after you have a baby, things are different. But it's remarkable what happens if people are super strong going into their pregnancy. They recover so much faster. They bounce back quicker. It still is hard, and it's I can't say it's easy for them either, but it's a lot faster recovery if you're strong going into that labor and delivery.
Love it. I think especially in like the female aspect side of things, like as far as when it comes to fitness, there's like this whole like I don't want to say like stigma, but like getting women into fitness, I think is such an important thing. And so, I mean, I'm sure you know it, but the typical female who comes to us, I don't want these things to be too big, or I don't want to look like Arnold. It's like, man, if only us guys could just go to the gym for a week and just look like Arnold, I think we'd all be pretty damn happy. But hormones don't quite work like that. Genetics don't quite work like that unless you're like some genetic phenom. So anyways, like tearing down that wall of like female fitness and like realizing how important it is to be stronger the older you get, and again, longevity and being able to function, and again, playing with your grandkid, like it's just such an important thing. And that's really what I talk about a lot of my podcast is like long-term thinking. Take care of yourself now, start your goals and do that when you can, while you can. I don't want to be 70 and rely on my kids to take care of me. I don't want to go to a home unless like there's something physically wrong, right? Like I want to be able to take care of myself. So anyways, I want to talk about the most common issues that you see day to day. And then also I want to talk about the most like common goals you see with like your average client. Like what do people want to accomplish when they come to you, which is probably kind of hand in hand with the most common issues. But and then we're going to feed that into like the issues you're seeing and how the most common issues can maybe be better avoided, right? Like maybe I should be doing more planks. Maybe there's certain stretches, right? So let's talk about the most common issues and then maybe some of the most common goals that you're seeing in your practice.
Great question. So actually, the most common client that I see in the practice is someone very similar to you. So what you just expressed to me by saying, I care what my quality of life looks like at 70, not just that I made it to 70, but what does my quality of life look like at 70 is exactly who we help. And typically the people who we help best similar to you, have already tried traditional things and ultimately they still have the problem of low back pain. Um, some common root causes of why or what was missed. Again, the top two for low back pain in someone very similar to you is either something with the range of motion of the hips. And I'm not just talking about like the back side of your hip, like the front side of the hip, how that ball and socket joint can it achieve its entire range of motion from start to finish, and can you control that entire range of motion on your own? So that's what I'm assessing. That's what I typically find in cases of low back pain. And knowing that you have that structural blockage there has to be compensation throughout the hips. Like the low back, if there is a problem, the next adjacent joint will absolutely be affected and compensating. And I would also look at the joint above as well and seeing like how your mid back is moving. And then coupled with that, another common problem that I see is pressure management throughout the core. And you're super strong and you're fit. And you do not have you do not have a weak core. That is not going to be the case here. Like you can sit up in this chair, right? Like you're not like toppling over. But most likely what I find is that the way that you pressurize your core throughout the day could be off. And this goes into the weeds a bit. Is it okay if I go there?
Yeah, I want to understand. Go for it.
Okay. So where this thought comes from is called, it's a technique called DNS, dynamic neuromuscular stabilization. And it's this group in Prague that studies babies. Have you ever noticed that if you're looking at like a toddler or a baby, they move effortlessly, they drop down into a beautiful squat, and you're like, whoa, like ass to grass out of the womb, okay. Like it looks really good.
Yeah.
And they study the way that babies move, and what we found is that pushing your stomach out, like if you've seen the babies that have like the milk gut and they're just like solid, like those babies are so stable through their cores, it's crazy. And so that's what I model my rehab after. And so often what I find with a lot of lifters, especially if you've had a bodybuilding background, is that pressure system has been disabled because we're so busy sucking in our belly buttons to our spine, when actually we're born to push it out. And so essentially what it is, if you want to nerd out with me for a second, is it's the eccentric control of the transverse abdominis muscle. So that deepest muscle of your core that goes 360 all the way around your internal weight belt. If you've done the vacuum exercise before with bodybuilding, that sucks it in. And I'm teaching you to do the exact opposite. Push it out and stabilize your core that way. It typically is pretty hard to start doing on your own at first. And I can honestly say this is probably one of the biggest changes that I make with a lot of my clients privately, is how to actually have a functional core and not just a strong core.
Awesome. So are you saying like when I'm just throughout my normal day, am I just thinking stomach out? Like, am I sitting here and I'm like, push out, dude? Like, just let it, because I feel like the average person, unless you're just walking around with a six pack, which isn't the average person, especially nowadays, you're thinking you walk around and you're thinking core in, you're thinking like, chest out as a guy, you're thinking like, don't let the average dude, I feel like, is like, don't let your gut hang out. At least I don't want to feel that way, So are you telling me I should get more comfortable pushing out and just like doing, what am I thinking here?
Yeah. Yes, this is typically the response from every single patient in the office too. They're like, what do you mean? I have been told to suck it in, engage my core like my whole life. I care about my posture and how I'm presenting, and still do those things, right? But by the way, you should, if you're strong and if you are lifting, a consequence of being strong is really good posture. So you shouldn't have to like actively think about like chest up, chest out. Like your muscles should just be able to support you doing that. And I actually find that it's more detrimental to everyone if we're just like thinking about our posture all the time. So where I like to start with people, so this actually sticks long term and it's not overwhelming and we just quit, is actually just starting really simply with belly breathing on your back, and starting to understand how that muscle moves and gaining some connection with it. So like quite literally, like I have you put one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly, and breathe in through your nose in a way where only your belly hand rises. And if you just start with 30 of those a day, starting to understand that as I breathe in, my stomach goes out, that's a great place to start. Now, actually putting that into day-to-day life would be, yes, we want to have your stomach going out, but not like a full brace where we're like bearing down. That's too much. You're not gonna be able to move if you do that. So letting your stomach hang out would be a great first place to start. But here are the caveats. I'm gonna give you permission of when not to do it. So typically I'm talking to females, so I'm saying, okay, hot guy walks by, suck that thing in, okay? You have my permission. You're in a swimsuit, you're in formal wear, you're taking a picture, suck it in. But like when you and I are having this podcast and you can't see my stomach, it's hanging out. When I'm at my desk, it's hanging out when I'm doing the dishes, right? That's when it's hanging out, and it's like all those other parts of life when we just want to let it go.
Yeah. No, I like it. That's interesting. I mean, that's kind of what I wanted to get from this is like, because I feel like everybody's looking for like I don't want to say the easy answer, right? But like, I mean, are you seeing a lot of weak cores? Are you seeing a lot of like for me, I've got a bad lower back, right? So it's always like, well, your lower back's unstable and you have to be careful. And I'm thinking like my hamstrings should be more flexible. I'm like, should I be doing more like reverse hyper and strengthening that lower back more? Like if I over strengthen things, will it like compensate and keep me in a better spot? Or like, again, is this a flexibility issue? Personally, I've been running a lot more, and actually my lower back's been feeling oddly like it better, like strangely enough. And my brain would think impact. I would be like, okay, that's impact in the lower back, but it's actually been better lately. So I don't know. I don't know that that's much of a question, but do you have anything to say to anything that I just said?
Love it. So first, again, just like knowing you and who you are, no shot do you have a weak core. No shot. And actually, a super common thing that I see with a lot of my lifters, especially like men who are very educated on their body and what to do to fix it, is that your posterior chain is actually like overactive. And so most likely with the running is that when you do this undulating motion where you have the SI joints swinging forward and backwards, is you're giving like a moments of rest to that low back. And don't freak out when I say rest. I don't mean like we need to rest more, right? Like just based on our conversation. But most likely what we might need is to get those spinal erectors that go down your back to turn off. We might need them to chill and incorporate some exercises to get some more space into that low back. Because if you're doing the hamstring exercises and strengthening your hamstrings, we might need them to turn off. And so exercise that I really like to do for that is it looks like a child's pose, but instead of doing the, child's pose, right? Yeah. So instead of having the arms all the way out and the knees spread out, actually bringing everything in really tight and balling up as much as you can into an egg position, and then breathing as expansively as you can into that low back, because that will turn off the erector muscles and give it a moments of rest. And so for you, I would actually rather that you do that at the end of every single workout. Just try to get those muscles to turn off for a second. And so why the running? My guess is that it's just like a different stimulus for your body. And impact is not bad. Impact can actually be good on your body, knowing that you're strong enough to support it. Your tendons and ligaments can absorb that force just fine because you're young and you're healthy and you're very capable. New stimulus in the body, something different. Your body can perceive it as safe. It's good. You should do more of it.
Enough. Okay. So one of my last questions on here, and then we kind of just go about whatever, is so we're talking about like the most common issues you see. I guess what are I assume the most common goals you see, like you said, are like the people forward thinking, longevity, right? Is that kind of where you're seeing? Okay. So the average person, my average gym client, maybe not the people you're necessarily seeing, but like, what should the everyday person be doing more of? Like, And obviously, I'm going to tell everybody they should be strength training, but like from what you see in your profession, what should the everyday person be doing more of? You know what I mean?
It's a great question. I'm gonna follow that up with strength training as well. Um, that is hands down like the root of why I do what I do is to keep people in the gym long term. And if they're not already in the gym, they're most likely in pain because they're not moving. Um, I have two different types of people that come in. They're either in pain because of something in the gym that they just like can't get past. They want to be able to do similar to you. Like I want to be able to like squat without back pain and I'm just like stuck. I'm hitting a wall with it. Or I have someone who's coming in and the story that they're telling themselves is everything hurts, like getting off the couch hurts, getting off the floor hurts, getting in and out of the car hurts. And then when you start to understand their picture where it's like, oh shit, you don't do any strength training, you haven't done anything, you sat at a desk for the last 20 years working, and we like to say in our office, like you're just kind of deconditioned. Like you just need to load them and they're gonna start to feel better and we can start getting some positive movement associations and get them into the gym as fast as possible. Like you said, um, putting muscle on is the strongest predictor of longevity, and not just that you're going to live longer, but what does the quality of your life look like? And so I know that wasn't directly what you were asking, but that's the impetus behind all of this and why I do this is because strength training and having muscle is the single most important and best thing you could do for your health. So anything that I do is just like, how do we make it happen? And honestly, I think the most value that I add to my clients is just changing their behavior around the pain.
Love
And
it.
so I think the one thing that someone can take away from this conversation is if something hurts, it doesn't mean you have to stop it right away. Do 5 to 10 more reps and it can actually feel better. And so what a shame that would be if you gave up on that movement just because the first rep hurt. Now, if you do 10 more and it hurts worse and worse and worse, give it a break. Quit and try it again next week at a lower rate, a lower weight.
I love it. Yeah, I think us in these small towns, like for what we're doing, you know, sometimes what I think about is like our impact on these small towns 20, 30 years from now, not just today, but the people who are in their 40s and 50s now, they're going to be the older population in 20, 30 years from now, or the people my age in 40, 50 years from now. Not saying stay here and, but like, what is the long-term impact we're having on these small town communities as far as longevity, feeling good? I don't know if you ever watched that. I don't really watch TV, but I know for our business, we actually watched like the Blue Zones on Netflix, how people live to 100, right? So it kind of thinks like that, right? Is like, well, this little gym in this town now, once it's here for 40, 50 years, like what is the long-term impact?
Mm-hmm.
But like I'm sure we could list off 50 people right now that we just know should get in the gym, but they're not willing to because there's like these walls, or again, but the importance of strength training. And I just, obviously you're not willing to change until you're willing to change. And I can't change anybody unless they're wanting to, but, yeah, it's unfortunate. I wish more people would, America in general, right?
I think that, and also it happens for us too. There's people who have chronic low back pain, and it's staring at them in the face, the solution, and the pain is still not bad enough. Like I had a lady who she literally can't walk, and she's like, "Well, I got 2 kids in college, and so I'm just gonna have to like put this off until they're out of college." And I'm like, "What do you mean? Like this very quickly is going to turn into not just a foot problem, but also a hip problem and a low back problem. And like, by the way, you're going to gain weight if you can't walk and go to the gym." Like most of the time, I think it's that as Americans, we tend to just like avoid problems. And sometimes we need to empathetically walk with somebody to show them the cost of inaction. And so I think that that's something that I do that every single day in my practice. But to answer your question, I mean, I was just talking to my friend here in Jersey about you guys because I'm so proud and honored to be here because I think by you actually focusing on like the rural gym communities is so important. Thinking back to high school, there's like three options of what you can do in your free time. You're either like an outdoorsman, so hunting or fishing. You're either like doing drugs and getting pregnant in high school, or you're active and you're on the sports teams. And that's really it. Like, there's not as many things to go and do. Like, you're not going to go take like cello lessons, most likely in Watoma, right? I'm sure they're around, but um, but it's important. And we've been talking about physical health a lot, but one of the things that's so special about our small community is that we all have pretty good community relational health. And I'm sure by studying the blue zones, you've seen that community is also very important for longevity. And one of the best ways that you can continue to show up for your community is making sure that you're still around for your community at that age. And I think that for even the outdoorsmen that come into the gym, like, this is just going to keep them hunting and fishing for years to come. Like, I know my dad is like, we drop everything for hunting, everything. We can't do anything from like the months of like August until February because he's got to go hunt. And I know one day he's going to be devastated without it. But right now, he does not necessarily see the cost of inaction. And so he's somebody where it's like, you just got to find the thing that they care about and connecting it to the future of like, how long you want to do this for.
Yeah. Yeah. What's it worth? Like a couple hours a week in the gym. I mean, you could probably say 2 hours a week in the gym, a couple 30 minutes, 20-minute sessions. People could probably say an hour a week in the gym. Again,
Right.
that longevity, what's it worth? And yeah, I mean, I feel like our best currency, our the most valuable currency is time, right? And how you use your time, but also how much time do you have left, right? Like, how do we utilize that? And when you start thinking, again, a long term, that's where it starts getting like not dark and scary, but like, what's my life going to be like at that point? Am I going to be able to still do the stuff I love doing now? Because I sure as hell know if I love doing it now, I'm probably going to want to do this or something similar when I'm older. If I'm active now, there's probably not a time in my life where I'm going to not want to be active, right? Like, so something for
I,
people to think about.
I think too, if I could just add,
Okay.
just even with talking with someone like my dad, my dad didn't go to college. He got Watoma High School education, which at the time in the 70s, I don't really know what that was like, but a lot has changed since then. And like, all I can think about is like, if there's ways that you guys can educate through your social platforms of like very, very simply, like, even just that, like, hey, alcohol can make your back pain worse. Like, little tidbits like that, that people like, they just genuinely like don't know. Um, and adding things like that into the content and tips for, here are the three things that you can do if you're going to the gym for the first time if you have no idea where to start. Because the fear that I hear the most from my patients, and I'm assuming they're probably similar in a small town, if not even more so, is that they just don't know where to start. And they kind of need someone to just hold their hand when they get into the gym for the first time. And if there's any way that, I don't know if you guys, if this exists, but if you can have an onboarding experience for them where it's like, we got you, like, here you go, we're gonna make sure you're taken care of. Does that exist right now?
No, no, I mean, so if we're talking, I, the hard thing for somebody like me, and this is, I like hearing it, and I don't really do our content, but I definitely want to start doing more of it. But it's like, I agree with you that the average person just needs they need to know, you're uncomfortable, right? It's like the first day of school. Not everybody's excited to walk in there. They didn't know who their teacher was. They're leaving their mom behind. They didn't know any of the kids in the class, right? It's no different coming to the gym. Um, and it's not a necessary thing, right? It's not like going to the grocery store where I need to get food. It's like I'm going to the gym and investing my time to be better. So um, we've talked about these things. We've talked about how we can have a better onboarding system because the same thing is like we want retention. We want clients as long as we can in the gym, and like we want you to come and we want you to use it. We don't want you just to pay. We want you to use your membership. But doing that good onboarding process is going to make you a better member longer. A lot of people sign up online, they never come grab their key fob. They eventually cancel the membership, or they never showed up to the gym and they paid us for a year or whatever. But getting them in, getting them comfortable, getting them situated, and then like you said, it's hard for somebody like me because you've already been doing it for so long, it's hard to sometimes step back and think about what the customer thinks, right? Um, for you, you're now a chiropractor. So you're not thinking about like a customer walking into a chiropractor office. I mean, you are because you're talking like this, but um, yeah, I think we need to do a better job of stepping back and thinking about that avatar, that client avatar of who's never been to the gym before, the people who've grown up in the 70s and 80s with different styles of education. I've been around it. I just know it, or I think I know it. And so that's a good 2 cents there. I appreciate that. So the answer is no, it doesn't really exist. It exists in theory. We've thought about it, and it's just like how to execute on that, right?
Right, right. And just also that's like a very high touch thing where like who is going to do it? Um, what's the process? What's the system for it? All of that takes time. And with a fast growing business like you're building and what you guys are creating, like there's only so many problems that you can fix at one time before it's just an absolute disaster. And I totally understand that.
Yeah, no, 100%. But this is one of those things that we have talked about, especially the onboarding aspect, like how to get people in. So we're actually launching a new system. We're doing a new members report like every week. So we've got like what's called a club lead position, and their job is going to be to communicate. So if we see Kaylee signed up, we're going to say, hey, Kaylee, it's, Colton from the gym. I just want to let you know, like, I'm the lead here. I'm the lead at Watoma. I'd love to give you a tour. Like, I saw you got your key, whatever, right? Have that conversation because it's so easy to sign up online and then never get to meet anybody here. So, but we are going to actually this year, we started like a couple weeks ago, a new members report, get you in, get you comfortable, try to get in front of you. There's going to be some people like me who don't need to get in front of you, but, so yes, it is a work in progress, but it is a project, it is a thing.
Yeah, just because we work very closely with gyms and we often get talking about business as a result. The gym that I go to, oh, sorry about that. The gym that I go to is a semi-private personal training, and they will literally text you if you haven't been in the last 2 weeks. And now obviously there has to be like manpower to do it and a lot of resources, systems set in place to make sure that can happen. But I think that people appreciate when you notice that they're gone too. And it's like, oh damn, like they're watching, they're paying attention. So
Yeah, and for our personal training program, we have all that stuff in place. So we are contacting people. But so before we wrap up here, is there any one thing? I'll ask you two things, and you can pick which way you want to go with it. Is there any one thing you want to leave everybody with? To wrap up chiropractic, or you can answer both. I don't care what you do. I'm here for it. Or if you were your younger self, or if you were talking to 18-year-old Kaylee, what would you like to tell 18-year-old Kaylee? Can be general business, can be life, can be, what you're doing now, something that just kind of is like, yeah. So talk to your younger self or leave us with something here.
I think my younger self, I'll take that one. Never in my wildest dreams did I think this is what it was going to look like. I mean, what I pictured for my life was like small town living and doing the traditional chiropractic care. And I am like actually like I feel like I'm legitimately changing the profession with what I'm doing. And the impact and the purpose that I have is way more than I could have ever imagined. And this is kind of a funny one, but I do a lot of public speaking. And there's things that I never would have thought that I would have been good at. And going back to 18-year-old Kaylee, I think the thing that I would tell her is that learning the trait of self-belief is the single most powerful thing you will ever learn. Because when you finally accept that you don't know everything, but you will figure it out and you trust yourself enough to figure it out, there's literally like nothing that's going to get in the way of that. And that will be the thing that will put you where you want to go.
Love it. I love it. I really do. We're going to wrap up there. I want, if anybody wants to reach out to you or follow you anywhere, what social media platforms, whatever you want to throw out here, throw that here.
If you want to follow my personal page and just like connect, Instagram, it's _Kaylie, Kaylie, Ray, Raee. If you want to follow my practice, we do post very helpful tips, get an insight into how it's different. That's Strive #2 Move, STRIVE, number 2, MOVE, strive to move on Instagram. And just be warned, if you do follow us, we do have an intern that reaches out and says hi. So just say that you heard us from the podcast, and we'll leave you alone.
I love it. Yeah, no, I do see your stuff, but I don't love social media, but it's something I need to do better at. I need to get more content out there, but I do see your stuff pop up every now and then. And then that's what kind of got me thinking of you. I was like, we got to have Kaylie on the podcast. I love what she's doing. I love that somebody also my age is going out and doing something and helping people change their lives for the better. Again, I knew you were doing it more than just being like a chiropractor, especially from the content you produce. So I was really interested to get you on here, learn more about what you do. And I think we could definitely build on this in the future. Like, I think there's other topics, or we could really dive deep into some of this stuff. And I think our listeners would find it beneficial. But anyways, I thank you for coming on. This was actually really awesome. I think it turned out even better than I expected it to. So I thank you for coming on.
Yeah, same. Thank you so much. Super, super honored to be here, and super proud to just know you and the guys and the team and what you guys are building, and keep rocking on.
I love it. Thank you so much. And I will reach out to you later.
All right. Bye.
See you later.